Elon Musk was recently crowned the richest person in the world, richer than 81% of all countries. That's right, countries. But how exactly does that compare to King Solomon, one of the wealthiest kings of all time, who essentially made silver worthless during his time because of the abundance of gold? Let's find out who's wealthier. As I'm sure you've seen, Elon has been all over the news over the past few months, and for good reason too, with the price of Tesla soaring, the upcoming launch of SpaceX's Super Heavy, and of course the recent kind of debacle with UN, right, where he's essentially making a bid to end world hunger, given they can prove how they're going to spend the money. And on the other hand, we have Solomon, David's youngest child, who just happened to be the wisest man in the history of the world. And of course, with that much wisdom is bound to come some riches. So who's actually richer? And I don't want to make you stick around to the end of the video, so Solomon. Solomon is actually 6 times wealthier than Elon Musk. That is a ton of money. So how this video came about is a couple of weeks ago, I'm browsing through this site, this very funny yet very depressing website, and you'll see why in a minute. And you get to pick a billionaire, and then you can buy a bunch of stuff and spend their wealth. And although Elon is not listed, Jeff Bezos is, which happens to be the second richest person in the world right now. And after I ended up buying something ridiculous like 100,000 Corollas, a couple yachts, buildings, and NFL teams, I realized I'd only spent like maybe 5% of his wealth, and that's why it's depressing. And I was thinking to myself, my goodness, imagine spending Elon's money, which is 2 times wealthier than Bezos, and then you get to the point where you're like spending Solomon money, which is 6 times richer than Elon. I mean, you actually have to sit down and think how you would actually spend this much money. All right, so let's go into how these guys got so much wealth and where it came from. All right, so let's break down their backgrounds, their net worths, and how they actually got so rich. Elon's mom is a supermodel, and he actually built his first computer when he was at the age of 12, which is ironic because in 2012 he made his first $1 billion, and currently he's actually the CEO of 4 companies. That's right, 4. He's got 1 company and then essentially 3 side hustles, except they're all full-time hustles. So Elon's net worth is north of $300 billion, and how he got it came from a couple of different ways. In 1999 he started PayPal. I'm sure everyone's probably used PayPal, but that was bought by eBay for $1.5 billion. In 2002, he started SpaceX, and then a year later, he started Tesla. Elon spent nearly 10 years building these companies in silence until, Falcon 9 launched, the first ever launch of a private space company. So Elon spent nearly 10 years building both of these companies essentially in silence until we saw Falcon 9 launch the first ever reusable rocket. This thing goes into space, comes back down, and then essentially you can reuse it. Whereas before, everything that was being sent up, the payloads from NASA, you essentially had to throw the rocket out and start from scratch. SpaceX was also the first time a private company sent payload into space. And I don't want to go on a tangent here because space is really a field of interest of mine, so I'll just end it there. But if you haven't actually watched the Falcon 9 reel, I highly recommend you do. It's pretty amazing, and if you have a chance to actually go see a space. The first major accomplishment from Tesla came in 2008. The Roadster electric car reached 0 to 60 miles in 3.7 seconds. They also launched the S model to essentially directly compete with the M5. In 2013, it was named Car of the Year. And then, as we all know, Tesla actually surpassed GM as the most valuable car company in the US. So how valuable is Tesla? As I'm recording this video, you can buy a share of Tesla for $1,081.92 roughly. And if Elon owns, 17% of Tesla, that's roughly $180 billion just in Tesla stock that he owns. Of course, we know he still owns roughly 50% of SpaceX, and it just got a private valuation of $100 billion. So just the 180 from the 50 already puts him at 230 billion. I personally believe SpaceX has a much greater chance of just making him a trillionaire than Tesla does, especially in the next couple of years as space exploration continues to advance. So let's talk about King Solomon, who's David's youngest child and son of Bathsheba, who is the woman that David saw bathing and fell into sin, and you are familiar with the story. Solomon went on to become the wisest man in the history of existence. And one of the biggest reasons that happened is because when he was going to sacrifice to the Lord, he did two things. One, he actually sacrificed 1,000 offerings to the Lord. I mean, that must have taken a decent amount of time. On top of that, the Lord appeared to him in a vision and said, Solomon, what do you want? And he said, Lord, I want wisdom so that I can guide your people. And the Lord was actually highly pleased with this because he didn't ask for riches, he didn't ask for fame, he didn't ask for gold. And then the Lord said, look, because you actually asked for a noble thing, I'm going to give you this, and then I'm going to grant you everything else that, a normal Joe would have asked for. Solomon had more than 700 wives. That's right, 700. On top of that, he also had 300 concubines, which is kind of like friends with benefits. So Solomon was able to build his wealth by a bunch of different ways. Solomon was rich. I mean, he was able to build his wealth in a couple of different ways. His success was achieved through ingenious reforms and innovations, such as the improvement of military operations, the expansion of the royal courts, sophisticated taxation, labor, tributes and gifts from foreign countries, and of course he created a robust trading system between land, sea, and established several trading routes. In 2 Chronicles chapter 1, it says that the king made gold and silver as abundant in Jerusalem as stones. So we talked about how Elon got his paper. Let's talk about how Solomon got his gold. The Bible states that he was wealthier than any man who lived before him or after him. So King Solomon had 4 income streams: commerce and trading, gifts and tribute that he got from different countries, and then of course, taxation. Let's tackle these one at a time. Commerce and trading. So for commerce and trading, he had a partnership with King Hiram, which every 3 years bought him a bunch of different exotic things like monkeys and apes. Solomon also built a gigantic fleet of ships, and he had people running these routes, buying gold, buying silver. His second avenue of income, believe it or not, was gifts. Everyone who went to see Solomon brought gifts, whether it was clothing or spices, animals, precious metals. Josephus talked about this too, where he essentially built wealth just off of the gifts that people would give him, because they would talk to him and become essentially marveled at how wise this man was, that they would give him gifts. The Bible states that every year Solomon would get roughly 25 tons of gold. That's every year that he was in power, and he was in power for 40 years. 1 ton of gold is roughly $64 billion. So if you do, 25 tons of gold times 40 years, we're looking at $64 billion that he got just in gold. Another source of income for him was tribute. The Bible says that in 1 Kings 4:24 that they brought tribute and served Solomon all the days of his life. So these surrounding countries and other kingdoms would essentially pay tribute for Solomon. And of course, taxation. So when his son became king, the Bible states that in 1 Kings 12, the people came up to him and said, your father Solomon treated us harshly and placed heavy burdens on us. 1 Kings 12:4 means he was taxing them heavily. And as sophisticated as his tax system was, the people were just sick of that burden. So there you have it. Solomon is roughly 6 times richer than Elon at almost $2 trillion as of today's currency. Now keep in mind, Elon has a long road ahead of him, so it could be possible that he stacks a couple more $1 billion and gets to $1 trillion, maybe 2, who knows. One key takeaway that I took from this video is always diversify your income streams and keep at it consistently. That's what Elon's been doing, that's what Jeff Bezos has been doing, and that's what Solomon did as well. All right guys, I'll see you in the next video. If you like this video, consider subscribing to the channel and dropping 5 stars. Appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of your day.